My name is Vivian. I'm 45 years old, and until recently my life looked like the quiet portrait of an ordinary marriage. For 20 years I had been married to Luis, raising 2 children who are now adults. Our passion didn't disappear suddenly. It slowly evaporated like water left boiling too long. Nights that were once filled with desire turned into silent evenings in front of the television, where even the touch of our hands felt more like habit than longing. One night, Luis confessed a fantasy. He wanted to be with me and another woman. At first I laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, but the hunger in his eyes told me it was not. Weeks of insistence wore me down, and fear of losing him pushed me to accept. What followed opened a door we never should have touched. The encounter in that hotel room shattered something inside me, yet it also awakened a strange electricity. Being watched, being part of something forbidden. Soon the boundaries blurred even more when I suggested bringing another man. From that moment, intimacy stopped being about love and became an experiment fueled by adrenaline and transgression. After that, something inside me changed. The thrill of secrecy began to fill a void I hadn't known existed. While doing ordinary things at home, my mind drifted to hidden rooms, strangers' hands, and the dangerous excitement of living a double life. Eventually I started meeting men on my own, lying about where I was going. One day, after an encounter, a man left money on the nightstand. I should have rejected it, but my hand closed around the bills, and in that moment the devoted mother I once was seemed to disappear. I became someone who chased the rush of being desired by strangers and the dark thrill of living without rules. My lies eventually caught up with me. Luis followed me one day and saw me leaving a cheap hotel. The confrontation that night destroyed what little remained of our family. My children looked at me with a kind of disappointment that felt like a final death. Now I walk the same streets of Lima like a ghost of who I used to be, trapped in a life I no longer know how to escape, having learned too late that some fantasies are not games but doors that, once opened, can swallow everything you love. That night I realized something I had ignored until then. The abyss doesn't always open suddenly. Sometimes you simply get used to walking along its edge. In the weeks after Luis discovered the truth, my life was wrapped in a heavy fog. There was no immediate divorce, no shouting, no dramatic scenes for the neighbors to witness. What replaced it was worse, a poisonous silence. Luis barely spoke to me, moving through the house as if I were nothing more than a piece of old furniture no one bothered to move. My children would not even look at me. Contempt can be colder than hatred. Hatred at least carries fire, but when people look at you as if you no longer exist, it breaks something inside you in a quiet, devastating way. One afternoon I packed my suitcase. There were no goodbyes, no questions about where I was going, no one trying to stop me. When I closed the door of that house after 20 years, I felt something strange for the first time in a long while. Freedom, mixed with a sadness so deep it felt hard to breathe. I rented a small room in a neighborhood where no one knew me. A narrow place with a tiny window facing a damp alley. The nights were long there. Too long for a mind that had forgotten how to rest. I tried to start over, truly I did, looking for work in shops, restaurants, even cleaning offices. But in a city like Lima, rumors travel fast when someone decides to tell your story. Somehow my past kept appearing in front of me like a shadow I could not escape. "We're sorry, the position is already filled. We'll call you." They never called. Days blurred together until one night near downtown, a car slowed beside me and a man asked calmly if I worked. For a moment I almost kept walking, almost chose the woman I used to be. But I stopped. That small decision opened another door, and this time I crossed it without looking back. Eventually shame faded, then fear, and finally almost all feeling. Until one early morning, leaving a hotel near the waterfront, I sensed someone watching me. A black car followed slowly, its lights off. Then a voice from the darkness spoke my name. Vivian. No one in that world used my real name. When the driver's door opened, my breath caught. It was Luis. But not the man I remembered. He told me he had been watching for weeks, trying to understand what we had awakened that night. He said he had changed too, and that he hadn't come to judge me but to make a proposal. In that moment I realized something terrifying. The man standing before me was no longer the husband I had known for 20 years. He had been watching, learning, waiting. And when he said he wanted to show me how deep the abyss could go if we stopped pretending we wanted to escape, a part of me felt a dangerous curiosity. Because some doors, once they open again, no longer lead back. They only lead deeper. Luis's smile hung in the air like a dangerous promise. It was not the smile of the man I had known for 20 years. It belonged to a stranger, someone who had crossed his own abyss while I crossed mine. The night wind lifted strands of my hair, and a chill ran through me, not from the sea breeze but from the way he looked at me. "Get in the car," he finally said. It wasn't quite an order, but it wasn't an invitation either. I hesitated for a moment before opening the door. Inside, the car smelled of leather and cologne, a scent that stirred buried memories of long drives, rainy nights, arguments and reconciliations. Luis started the engine and drove silently through the damp streets of Lima, the city lights passing across his face as yellow reflections. Eventually he stopped at a lookout near the sea. The sound of waves filled the silence between us. When he finally spoke, he admitted that the night he saw me leaving that hotel something inside him had broken. He thought he had lost me forever, and the irony, he said, was that it had all started because of him. I reminded him that he was the one who had opened that door, and he simply nodded, saying that what he discovered afterward was something he had never imagined. That desire doesn't disappear when you think it's gone. It only changes shape. As we sat there, the tension between us felt different from the quiet routine our marriage once had. It was sharper, almost electric. Luis reached for my hand, and the touch surprised me. It wasn't the absent gesture of habit, but something deliberate and intense. He told me that while he followed me, he saw things that hurt him deeply, but he also saw something else. He saw that I was alive. Those words struck me because I knew they were true. For years I had been a woman trapped in routine, a careful wife and responsible mother who had forgotten what it felt like to truly want something. But crossing that forbidden door had changed everything, even if the price had been devastating. Luis lifted my chin gently and whispered that he had changed too. When our eyes met, I felt something I thought had died long ago. Attraction, raw and unsettling, nothing like the calm warmth of a long marriage but something far more dangerous. He said that maybe we had lost everything, yet in the wreckage we had found something we had never had before. Honesty. The waves crashed outside while the silence between us grew heavy, charged with memories and possibility. When he murmured that he still desired me, I realized that none of the strangers I had met in recent months had ever looked at me the way he did. Maybe the end of our story wasn't what we thought it was. Maybe everything we had destroyed was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. And for the first time in a long while, both of us seemed willing to discover just how far it could go. Maybe our story hadn't ended that night. Maybe everything we had destroyed was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. And for the first time in a long time, we both wanted to see how far it could go. The wind from the sea grew stronger, waves crashing against the rocks like an ancient heartbeat in the dark. Luis kept his eyes on me, his gaze filled with something deeper than desire or nostalgia. It felt as if we were standing among the ruins of our old life, wondering whether something living still remained beneath the rubble. When he said that after everything that had happened he could still recognize me, I confessed that I no longer knew who I was. He gently disagreed, saying that perhaps the woman I thought I used to be had never truly existed. For years, he explained, we had played roles. Perfect marriage, perfect family, a quiet life. But beneath that surface there had always been something else. Opening that forbidden door had not simply destroyed us, he said. It had revealed us. As the night deepened and the distant lights of the city flickered along the coast, our conversation shifted from the past to what might come next. Luis said we had two choices: pretend everything was over, or accept that we had both changed. The calm routine we once clung to, he admitted, had nearly suffocated us, and though the truth between us was dangerous, it was also honest. When he asked if I regretted everything, I said I regretted the pain, the lies, the damage to our family, but I could not deny that for the first time in years I had felt truly alive. He understood that feeling. Our hands found each other again, not out of habit but out of recognition, like two people who had traveled too far into darkness to pretend innocence anymore. Maybe we could never rebuild the life we once had, but perhaps we could build something different, something real without lies. When Luis finally started the car and said we were going home, the word startled me. Yet as the city lights slowly returned on the horizon and the moon reflected across the ocean, I realized I no longer felt alone on the edge of the abyss. What I felt instead was something unexpected, dangerous, fragile but powerful: hope.